Amazing. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We are on day 2 of AI Week. It's the biggest cold email event that we've hosted, and you hopefully have seen. There's a bunch of events that happened yesterday. We've got the recordings for it. You'll get that too. Why you should pay attention very quickly. Nick is the automation master. You have seen him. You've come across him on Twitter. He runs a company. You will figure out exactly the details. It's a crazy number of clients. His acquisition model is beautiful. His more so operational process is untouchable. There's a lot to learn from him, from cold emails, from copywriting, infrastructure, and everything that comes along with creating and running a successful agency. I know because we work together closely and I've seen how he's blown up his business. But before that, Mishti, floor's on you. Floor's to you. Please go ahead and kick off.
Yeah, thanks guys for coming. Obviously AI is such a huge part of anyone's lead gen process these days. If you want to be at the top of your game, that's why we're hosting this event. Just to quickly show you the feature that we launched that we're celebrating, Clay and Smartlead together, we launched AI message drafting in Clay. So I'm just going to show you it real quick. But essentially, now when you're in a Clay table, just click start an email campaign, draft messages, and you can basically side by side tinker with your prompts on one side and then see your message preview on the other. And I'll show you what that looks like here. So put in variables like someone's first name. You can put in AI prompts like this one about thinking of creative marketing ideas for someone based on their business. Basically, like the world is your oyster with this. And the hope is that it just gets you used to iterating on AI prompts and a lot better at crafting these personalized messages. And then when you're done, you can just port over to Smartlead in one click. I don't know why this is not okay. Yeah, just click start email campaign, start Smartlead campaign, slap in your details, and you're good to go. So if you have questions on this, just DM me or ask me after. But yeah, we are celebrating this event and turning it over to Nick now to talk about all things agency growth.
Going on, guys? Hope everyone's having a wonderful morning or afternoon or evening. I'm gonna go ahead and screen share. So bear with me, my presentation isn't visually appealing. It's just black text on a white background, but hey, it's gonna be really valuable. And it's gonna be super valuable for the lead gen agencies. It's gonna be, if you're not a lead gen agency, it's still gonna be pretty valuable. I want to show you a couple things that I've learned. And yeah, I'm super excited to just kind of get into it. Quick background on me. So my name is Nick Abraham. I run LeadBird.io, which is a lead gen agency, serve over 100 active clients throughout the agency with a very lean team. I've built a couple of SaaS apps in the sales tech space. Don't really enjoy SaaS as much as I enjoy agency stuff because I think operations is beautiful, it's fun, and it's fulfilling. And so you may have seen some of our tools that we built, Quick Lines, Golden Leads, Scrubby, etc. I don't know who's drawing that, but that's hilarious. But I would not have gotten this far and built a scalable solution if it wasn't for automations, operations systems. So my goal today is to show you the top 5 systems that I implemented this year that have impacted me the most. And I don't know how to erase this, so let's
1 second. I'm trying to figure out how the hell. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, there you go. I got it up. Sweet. So yeah, that's that. So let's start off with recruiting, because I think if you look at an agency, right? An agency is very dependent on the people that you hire. And for everyone that has their cameras on, like raise a hand of someone that's just hired someone just to kind of fill in the gap that they had, right? And I've done this a lot. And this is probably the worst thing that you could possibly do. And in the last 6 months, I've redone our entire recruiting process to be extremely good. And I think if you can hire higher quality people for your agency, you'll be actually able to remove yourself from a lot of the day-to-day operations and systems. And I don't know who's done this, but very mature of you.
All right, anyways, everyone, so just 1 second. Whoever's doing that, please stop it. It's not funny. It doesn't work for everyone else. Give it a break before we kick you out. Cheers. All right, Nick, carry on, man.
Yeah, let me delete this one too. Cool. That all right, awesome. So I've never worked for anyone outside of myself, and a lot of people think that's a cool thing. I think it's a huge bottleneck, and here's why, right? Like, you don't ever get to go through an official recruiting process and see management and systems and processes at bigger organizations. And so whenever you're trying to build a startup, it's very hard for you to conceptualize like how to go about recruiting and hiring and managing. And so that to me was my biggest learning lesson of this year. And so I hired a CEO coach. He sits with me on a weekly call and really helps me understand a lot of these things. And one of the best things that he taught me was basically how to go about recruiting. And I want to kind of walk you through our framework. So the first thing you need to do before you hire anyone is two things, right? You need to identify the outcomes and attributes, and then you also need to be able to have a clear breakdown of what that participant is to do day to day, right? And so if you do not have these two things in place, I truly don't believe you should go in to hire the person, right? Only hire once you have those two things in place. And so for us, one of our main roles that we hire for is a CSM, customer success manager. And, you know, I used to come from a
Hey, sorry, Nick, mate. And it's just really annoying from people doing that. I apologize. We're just trying to disable annotation, and just FYI, we're gonna stop the webinar if you do this. It's not gonna work for anyone's benefit over here. If you're over here, we're gonna kick you out. Nick's spent a lot of time, effort, and energy to do this for free. It's not helping. Your brand is being tarnished right now because we can see who's posting this. If you're trying to build a client agency, it's not helping you. So just FYI. I know you're drawing little dick pics, but grow up. And just so you're aware, some pretty big people are on this webinar watching you do that. It's not helping your case. So if you do this, we're going to call it, right? And I will call you out in public. I will call you out on Twitter. I will call you out on LinkedIn. And it's not going to help you out. So Nick, I apologize again. Please go ahead.
No worries. Cool. So let's go ahead and continue. So yeah, like I said, right, like you just want to identify the outcomes and attributes of the person and the role that you're hiring for prior to doing anything else, right? Then the next thing you need to do is create an extremely in-depth job description. So one of the things I always see from candidates that we speak to is that they just love our job descriptions, right? Because not only are we speaking about the responsibilities that they hold, but we show them what they're going to be doing on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and on an as-needed basis. We talk about what their career projection could look like and what they could expect from us within the first year. And so we're being just super upfront with what their day-to-day responsibilities looks like. And that's a very attractive thing to do as like in your recruiting process. And so that's kind of like the first two things that you want to do. The next thing you want to do is have a general application and a filtering system. So this is really important. So if you go to leadbird.io/careers and you go through our initial application, we're able to filter out almost 80% of the people just from the general application. And here's why, right? We ask them for three things. And if they can't do these three simple things, we know that they will not be able to do the hard things when we actually hire them. Give us a Loom video explaining why you think you'd be a good fit and introducing yourself. Give us your resume and give us a link to your LinkedIn profile. If you cannot do those three things, it's automatically going to disqualify you and filter you out of our system. And that has been a very good thing to make sure that our recruiter is only speaking to really qualified candidates. And so we'll have an initial call, and the initial call
Oops, we lost you there, Nick. You've been muted.
Sweet. I think someone might have changed the setting on me.
Oh, hold on. Give it a moment. I think Mishri's just trying to sort a few things out just to make sure we don't have people annotating again. Just give it a second, guys. We're just gonna sort this out before, just to keep it clean. One moment.
Do you want me to still keep going, or you want to?
Just a second while we just sort out the annotation.
Yeah, no worries. And for everyone that's in here, give a quick intro in the chat of like who you are, what you guys do. I would love to see. You might find some potential clients in here. I think there's 248 people live on this call. So yeah, will be cool to see.
All right. Can we please kick out Aditi Sharma? Thank you. Thank you. Aditi Sharma is gone. And that's that. All right. Sweet. I think we'll just kick off and then we'll just work bit by bit.
Yeah, no worries. Cool. So kind of like what I was speaking about, after we have all of our general applications filled out, and I'll show you how we automated this entire process to make it super streamlined. But yeah, we'll filter out a majority of the initial applications. And then we have a recruiter, and I would recommend getting one and spending your time just like literally being on the leadership calls where you actually get to see people after they've already gone through an initial call, general application, and an assessment. You can go on Upwork. You can find really good recruiters for $15 to $25 per hour. You don't need them to be full-time for your agency, but this is really important in finding qualified talent. And then on the initial call, this is the framework my coach brought me through, which I think is super important. Let me just kind of pull this up really quickly as well. It's basically just looking at their past experiences. And this is what we taught our recruiter to go through and record. And all she's doing is asking 5 questions and asking them these 5 questions across every one of their past jobs, right? So question 1, how did you find that job, right? So let's say, they worked at LeadBird. How'd you find that job at LeadBird? And what we're looking for is, did this candidate get recommended by someone? Did they get poached by someone? They use their network? Like, we're trying to see if other companies thought this person was extremely valuable and recruited them themselves, right? Because we want really qualified people to join our agency. We want to ask them what their biggest achievement is. This one's really important as well, because the A players, they're going to tell you, hey, I hit quota every single month I was there. I exceeded it by X percentage. I generated this, I built this system. Like, they're going to be super specific about things. They're going to talk about the impact and results that they had. The people that aren't the most qualified candidates, they're going to just talk about fluff. Oh, I had a great time there. I helped manage a great culture, like things like that, right? Like, we want to find specific, impactful results that they were able to drive for the company. Want to talk about their lowest point in that job. And I think it's very important to ask this, because you get to ask and find out more about their actual character.
Hey, Nick, are you able to zoom in a bit so that we can see a bit further?
Yeah, I got you. But yeah, kind of like asking them what their lowest point is in that job. Like, it really gets to break down like their self-reflection, their awareness, talking about how they went and addressed their lowest point in that role. So these kind of questions, it really opens up and helps you identify on like kind of like a character level if they're going to be a good fit, and if it's someone that aligns with your values, which I think is very important. This one's really good too, because you get to assess the truth, right? Which is asking them, hey, who's your manager? And if I was to get a reference check for them, what would they say about you? This is where all the truths come out. Hey, honestly, me and my manager didn't have a great relationship because of this, and this. And you get to really suss people out, and then really identifying what made them leave. We want to hear from candidates that they're looking for growth. They felt like their career was at a dead end at the previous job, and they're looking for growth. They're looking for something new. And kind of hearing about what makes them want to leave and what makes them want to join you specifically, right? And so these are 5 questions that we'll ask, and we'll ask it for every single role. And what you're identifying is basically just patterns, right? You're trying to see like what matches up, what holes they have in their stories. And this is really good way to assess candidates on the initial call. Have your recruiter do it. If they're qualified, you should be sending them an assessment. And the important thing about an assessment, I think, for most agency use cases, so over to the next slide, is those assessments, like what you're trying to test for mostly is, do they have critical thinking? And if I give them, basically just critical thinking, right? And can they follow instructions? So for our assessments, they're just a type form. We give them, and I'll actually even show you the one that we have for inbox managers, for example. So it's basically a 9-question little quiz on type form. We give them a video of our inbox management process that I have on YouTube, and then we just ask them questions based off of that, right? And you'll be surprised. We've had like over 150 people submit this general application. Under 10 of them have had answered all the questions all the way through properly. And that's crazy, right? Like, imagine if, I went on that initial call and just kind of hired off of a hunch, a feeling like I think this guy could be an A player. And then I didn't do an assessment. And then I spent a month training this person to only find out, hey, this person was not the right person for the role, right? I've done that so many times, and it is going to really hold you back when it comes to growing your agency. Because like I said before, like your agency is dependent on the people that you hire. If you ever truly want to scale and remove yourself from fulfillment, you have to hire A+ talent. And then one really important thing to do is, like, with your assessment, obviously put the correct answers and then give an example of a candidate who passed the assessment, so that you can have your recruiter just like go through and see if the assessment is good or not, right? And so that's kind of how we've like kind of delegated this entire process out. The last thing is the leadership call. So this is where me and my CRO will actually sit on the call and, you know, interview the candidates ourselves. And like, this is the only time we're really involved in the process. And it's kind of coming back down to the outcomes and attributes, right? So let's go to the CSM one, kind of like I was showing earlier. Like, the questions we're asking are really just qualifying if this person can fit the role and hit the outcomes and attributes that we want for that role, right? So for us, our CSMs, they should be able to manage 50 clients in under 6 months, right? But we're going to give them 50 clients to manage by the 6-month period. So like, I want to ask them, have you had a track record of managing more than 10 clients? Because what I've seen is the CSMs that haven't managed a good boatload of clients, they start to get stressed out. They start to break. They start to fidget and start to, you know, just kind of lose interest and just burn out, right? But if they've had the experience managing more than 10, they're pretty good, right? And so like, I have to look for that. That's an outcome that I absolutely need to know. If they don't have that, they're probably not going to be the best fit. And likewise, there's a lot of CSMs that aren't really held to like a monetary perspective. And so like, in their previous roles, did you like what was like your quota? Like, what was your main KPI? Was it based on revenue managed? Asking them these kind of questions and seeing like, have they been held to that kind of standard? And so you want to kind of run through these questions to identify, can they hit the outcomes and attributes that you want? This is the best way to qualify a candidate, to see if they're going to actually be the person that you want them to be. And so that's a leadership call. And then obviously you want to send an offer letter, put an NDA in there, put a non-compete, and then all the other
Hey,
typical
Nick,
stuff
just
we put in an
before we
offer
jump
letter.
into the offer letter, what I want to quickly do is use an opportunity like this to drop in a quick poll for everyone to help them, like, just help us understand a bit more about their agency, so you can, you know, look at tailoring some questions. So everyone, you'll see a poll pop up. 2 questions actually show up over there. Please answer it. It'll really help us cater the rest of the event and questions as well for you. A great chance for everyone else to learn about each other as well.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Awesome.
I don't know if you can
want me
see
to
it, Nick, but very interesting. Cool. So the question for those who can't see it is, what's your current client management process look like for your agencies? It's adequate, but we could improve it. We got a 48%, and it's chaotic for looking for better strategies. So that's usually the case. And how many active clients does your agency have? And we got less than 20. We've got a few with 50 to 100, and a few with more than 100, which is great. It'll be pretty great to see how you're going to help them automate all that jazz right after this. Cool. We'll share it. Let's go for it.
Awesome. So yeah, that was like basically everything I wanted to say on recruiting. I think you should speak to a minimum of 10 candidates before you send out any offer letters. You know, I did this a lot early on, is like, you know, I speak to 5 people and I'm like, hey, that first guy, you know, he seemed pretty good, right? And you never want to hire from that perspective. Like, you need to have and make a calculated decision that's based off the data. And like, this process, it seems very like, oh, like there's a lot of pieces and moving and stuff, but like, Airtable is our best friend. We've literally built an interface to kind of make it as streamlined it is for our recruiter. Like, she'll get, you know, the qualified applicants right in here. She needs to review them. She says, okay, sweet, this person's qualified. They get an email to hop on the initial call, right? All she's doing is going through and answering the questions. How do they find the previous job? What was their biggest achievement? And ultimately, was that person qualified or not? She'll put qualified. Sweet. Once she hits create, they get an email saying, hey, you know, love the initial call. Here's an assessment. Please take your time and submit this. We'll review the assessment and see if you're a good fit for the leadership call. The assessment pops up into here. We get to see the entire answer. This is like a test one I put in earlier today. But you'll get to see all the answers, right? This person, not qualified. This person, oh, he is qualified. Let's go ahead and put qualified and submit it. Now they'll get an email to book a call with leadership, and that's with us. And then when I'm on that call, putting in the candidate's name, finding them on the linked record, and I'm just filling this in. And now I've built kind of like my own like recruiting platform in a way And I'm using this to build a huge pipeline. So whenever, we need to hire again, I already have a list of CSMs. I have a list of inbox managers that I'm going to hit up because maybe there was someone that was really good, but I just thought the other person was better, right? And this to me is so important when growing an agency. Like, I wish someone came to me, showed me this system, gave me a general idea of how to run it, because it would have saved me a lot of time, it would have saved me a lot of money, and I would be way further ahead by building a great foundation with A players on my team, rather than just kind of hiring whoever is willing to take the job. And so I think that's very important. So that's kind of like more general agency stuff. Let's get into the fun stuff. Let's talk about lead gen agencies and processes we've automated here. And if you're a lead gen agency, comment below. I'm actually super curious to see how many out of the 209 people here live are lead gen agencies. But one of the things that I see a lot of lead gen agencies mess up is inbox management, right? I have a very in-depth video explaining how we're leveraging subsequences, and I'll kind of explain it here. But, a lot of lead gen agencies, they hire like one inbox manager to hire or manage like 10 clients. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Like, I think one inbox manager could manage over 100 clients. We have one inbox manager currently, right? And the reason why they hire only one for every 10 is because they're depending on the inbox manager to reply like custom responses. And that's a complete waste of time. You need to implement subsequences, because you'll realize that 95% of all responses that you get will fit into this bucket. Either they're the wrong person, they're requesting more info, they're wanting to hop on a call, they're telling you to reach out in the future, they're telling you to reach out to someone else in another department, it's an auto reply, it's an out of office, or maybe the email says, no, this person no longer works here, right? And if you can realize that, then you know that the action after identifying the response can be completely automated. And so you could do this inside of Smartlead. And so this isn't the UI of Smartlead, this is like a diagram we built. But this is like what subsequences is, right? So if we have the initial email sequence and someone says, hey, I'd love more information before hopping on a call. Like, your inbox manager does not need to be writing a custom response for that person. They need to be just enrolling them into an info sequence, which is just an automated touch point for email one, which provides them info. So it gives them a case study, gives them a, testimonials, maybe gives them a VSL, and then it's just following up on them to convert them into a call, right? Same thing with like a future sequence. Like, you just need to schedule a message for when that time comes for them to reach out to you and say something on the lines of like, hey, first name, you mentioned that I should reach back out around this time.
Hey, Nick, sorry to disturb you. Do you mind just zooming in a bit further? I think it's a little difficult for people to see.
Yes.
If you can. Thank you. There we go. Perfect.
Yeah. So that's kind of like the future referral. They might say, hey, reach out to Billy Bob Joe in the other department. Like, your inbox manager should know to just like forward that email chain over and say, hey, Billy Bob Joe, Babiv over here told me to reach out to you. Right. And so, like, what I'm basically just saying is the back end can be completely automated. And I don't know if you guys have played around with Smartlead's API, but it's the best API in any sales engagement platform, right? And so let me show you how our inbox management system looks like for our team. And I wish my team isn't actually managing campaigns right now, so I can show you at a better level. But we have and this may look like something complex to build. It's not. Like, anything I show you on the systems and automation side of things today, it's not hard to build. Like, go on Upwork, literally post on there saying, hey, I'm looking to hire a Zapier or Make or a developer. And like, with Smartlead's API, like, it's just like putting things together. It's not complex by any means. And so what we're doing is we're using 3 endpoints from Smartlead. The endpoint to pull all responses, to update the lead status, and to send custom replies. And so we're pulling all the replies we get from Smartlead into like our open responses. And I wish there was, maybe if we wait a couple of seconds, it'll pop up in here and then I can show you guys, but there's like teams start taking care of it. But we're basically just sitting in here and it kind of looks like this. Like, this is what the reply will look like. And like, all my team is doing is updating the lead status. So if this person replied something on the lines of like, hey, I'd love more information, there's usually a drop down in the open responses section where they're able to just click info and then click push status. And then it's going to go update the lead status inside of Smartlead and enroll them into that subsequence, right? And our goal for our inbox manager is to go through all of these columns on the left and just knock out everything. It should say no emails or no tasks through all of these, right? And so likewise, when we get a lead for a client, All we have to do is assign the status and then click send lead to client. It enriches this guy's information, sends it over to the client. Similarly, if we have people that are requesting us to reach out at a later time, we hop into Smartlead. We have a template right here. We're able to schedule it. We're just making it so plug and play where like there's just like no room for error, right? We're building consistency. And I think that's the best thing you need to do when it comes to your agency. It's like try to figure out how to productize a lot of the things as much as possible so there's less room for error. Because if I hire 5 inbox managers to manage 10 clients each and I have them do custom responses, how hard is it going to be for me to sit on review calls with them and review their work and identify if they're actually doing what they should be doing and there's not any mistakes happening? It's going to get extremely tough, specifically when you get to the size of 100 clients, 200 clients, and so forth. These are systems that are going to really limit your growth. And then similarly as well, there's going to be situations where you can't answer the question for the client, right? When it comes to inbox management. And so you need to build a system where you can send it to the client and then they can reply to you and give you more information. And so we built that right here. Like these are all like questions we can't answer on behalf of our client because we need their industry expertise. We just click custom response. We click create. It sends this entire email thread to the client. They respond to it. And then it's going to pop up right here. And then we use ChatGPT. So I guess this is like AI of the week kind of thing. Like we're using AI to basically help us draft a reply based off the client's reply back to us. So like if I click create ChatGPT assistant reply, a draft response is going to pop up in here and it's going to help us answer this question. And why do I do this? Well, you know, I think my inbox manager is super talented. Or actually, not that I think. I know that he's super talented. But I think ChatGPT is smarter than 99% of the people out here, specifically when you're looking at like 100 clients, each with different business use cases. Like ChatGPT is going to know more than I will, right? And so you're going to build consistency in your positive replies. So there's some replies where you do need to actually manually go in and you can't enroll them into the subsequence. And you want to use ChatGPT to kind of draft a reply, review it, see if it's good, and then go ahead and send it out. So that's like our entire inbox management process in a nutshell, and something that I would really recommend that you guys start building out. The next thing I want to talk about is data scraping, right? When you're at like 20 clients, it's very difficult to do the process of pulling your list from Apollo, LinkedIn, wherever you're pulling it from, uploading that into an email validation tool to verify the emails, and then putting into another tool like Better Contacts to get, you know, the waterfall enrichment done. And then taking that list, putting into like Quick Lines or SmartWriter to get your AI personalized lines, and then putting the catch-alls into Scrubby, and then, you know, separating it into a Google Sheet and making it super organized. Like that's so tedious. Imagine doing that for 20 clients, right? Now imagine doing that for 100 clients. And you know, there's a lot of room for error when that happens, right? And things get messy. And so what I realized was like, hey, every single tool I'm using in that tech stack to do all of that has an API. And so you want to find a developer and you want them to literally streamline that entire flow to get it to pass data from one tool to the next, to the next, to the next, so that you're literally not having to do anything outside of uploading a sales nav link or an Apollo search link. Like I want to show you what it looks like when we launch campaigns for clients. We just have this form, right? We put in the email copy, we put in the lead list details, but here's the cool piece, right? I can say, hey, this is an Apollo lead list, or I can say this is a sales nav link, and I just put the link there. And on the back end, it's going to scrape it, it's going to verify it, it's going to do the waterfall enrichment, it's going to add quick lines, it's going to put the catch-alls into Scrubby, it's going to create Google Drive folders, create a spreadsheet, put them all on there. It's going to take care of like that 10-step process automatically, right? And that's what you want to get to, because when you have more than 20 clients, this becomes an absolute nightmare, right? And there's going to be a lot more room for error. Very important to do. Likewise, kind of like I mentioned, Smartlead does have the best API in the sales engagement space. And similarly, right, when you have 20 clients and you have to launch 20 campaigns in a singular day, imagine having to create a campaign in Smartlead, add the leads into Smartlead, you know, adjusting all the settings that you want inside of Smartlead, adding the inboxes to Smartlead, and then putting the copy in there with the spin tags and making sure all the merge fields are there. Like this is very tedious, and it has a lot of room for error, right? And when you're stepping away from fulfillment and you're depending on team members to do this, like you want to build your systems and your infrastructure to make it bulletproof, make it to where nobody can mess it up, right? And so for us, like similarly, we have inside of Smartlead, right under our campaign launch form, we have campaign launch. I'm gonna pull this up real quick. Like for us, we have all the email copy here, right? It has all like what we're going to enter into Smartlead with all the spin tags, everything of that sort added in. And all we have to do is click create draft campaign. And guess what happens with the backend? It will automatically upload the leads. It will create the campaign. It will assign the inbox. So it'll add the copy. All our team has to do now is say, okay, hey, I need to just activate the campaign. That's it, right? And once again, like you're thinking in your head right now, dang, this is really cool. I wish I could have this. Seems pretty complex. Seems like I need some crazy dev talent to do that. And I'm telling you, go on Upwork, find someone that's talented with no code, APIs, Zapier Make, anything of that sort. You're not going to spend a fortune to get them to build these systems because it shouldn't be that expensive. It wasn't for us. We have a full-time developer now, so it's a little bit different. And you'll be able to build a system and really streamline your back-end processes. And the last thing I want to touch on, which I think is one of the most important things I learned this year, is automating project management, right? If you think about it, and if you kind of think from this frame, every single task inside of your organization has a trigger, right? Whether you want to believe it or not, every single task has a trigger. So you need to be thinking about how you can capture that trigger and create an automated action in your project management system, right? So for us, when a campaign hits 75% complete, I want our team to start drafting up a new campaign, pitching the client on a new campaign angle, and start working on that and sending it over to the client for review, right? If a campaign's been live for 14 days, I need my CSMs to go look at the campaign and identify if it's generated results or if it's underperforming. If it's underperforming, we need to work on a new campaign. Like all of these things can be captured. These are all triggers. And if I could identify the trigger, I can create an automated task inside of our project management system to then assign it to the team to start working on, right? And that to me is extremely important. You can apply this to any kind of agency. It's not just lead gen agencies, but you just really need to identify what are those triggers and what is the action. And what's beautiful about this is that you can minimize the amount of errors that you have when it comes to client performance. Like, great example, if a campaign has 10% bounce rate, like we all know that campaign needs to be turned off. We need to re-clean the leads. Maybe we need to stop it. We need to check in the inbox health. And if we don't, like, we're going to have deliverability issues. The results are going to plummet. And so like you need to create triggers off of things like that for every use case so that you just don't run into areas or issues of like your fulfillment just not working, right? And so, yeah, this is basically like the 5 most important, like impactful things I've built within the agency in the last year. Cool. V.
That is awesome, man. Thank you so much. That was you will not find I was trying to see if I could replace your value on ChatGPT. I couldn't find it. So clearly this is good shit. Thank you so much for that. A lot of the questions you've answered actually really help me when our own Smartlead customers come with us with questions, because there are a lot of them are agencies, right? So that's going to be that. So we've collected a ton of questions from people, and I think we want to jump in that. If Mishti or Swapna, if you don't mind spotlighting me, please, that would be great. And yourself as well, Mishti, that'll be good. So I think the first question, Nick, everyone tends to have is, what's the most popular automation that you use within your agency? Is it the client onboarding form, or what's actually, let me go back with that question. Not popular. What's the one that has saved you the most amount of money?
Saved us the most amount of money. So, I mean, I think about it in this perspective, right? Like, what has decreased the amount of churn that we have? And I would say it's client communication. So I don't think you should ever automate like messages or text or anything like that to clients, because they'll see through it. Specifically, that follows like the same ChatGPT logic. But what I do think you should do is create and map out the customer journey and draft emails or Slack messages in your CSM's inbox to kind of identify and make it their own and send out, right? So we do this a lot. And like, if you can increase the amount of touch points you do per customer, you'll notice that your churn decreases a ton. Like we've done the math on this. The months that our CSMs have had more check-in calls with clients and have sent more emails to clients, their churn has been lower versus the other months. And so like simple way to do this is like, okay, when you deliver your first lead to a client, you should be emailing or drafting an email in your clients or your CSM's inbox to send out that says, hey, congrats, we just hit our first lead together. Here's what you should do to submit this lead into a meeting or convert this lead into a meeting. Here's a guide on that. When you hit 10 leads with the client saying, hey, congrats, huge milestone for us, 10 leads, super excited to deliver more. Campaign's not performing good, right? Letting them know, hey, it's 45 days in the campaign. We're below average compared to our other clients when it comes to performance. Like, can we hop on a call and assess what we do next? So these kind of things, if you can automate just like the drafting of the email and having your CSM sit there and like review it and cater it towards that client, it will help you limit churn immensely. And I think it helps with clients as well because they're like, damn, this guy's on top of his shit, right? And so I think that's one thing that we've implemented that's limited churn. And one thing I would say to you, if you're trying to build that, it's like, don't try to build it all in one day, build it out over time. Because like some touch points aren't necessary. And like sometimes you'll just think of other touch points as time goes, but get the basic ones out the way, the quick wins and stuff. And yeah, that's something I would recommend.
For someone starting out, because we had a lot of people in the poll that were, 20 clients or under, and I saw some questions in the chat about at what point do you start hiring help? Like if you were to do it again, at what point would you make sure you had these touch points down and do it yourself versus like what's the scaling process that you think is best for people on this call to follow?
Yeah, so I'm like a firm believer because I didn't do this and it caused a lot more issues for me. So I hired way too early. I think I hit like 10 clients and I was like, oh, I can't do this process anymore. I just don't want to do it. And that's just me being lazy, right? And so I think you shouldn't hire anyone until you've kind of experienced the role and you've really mapped out day by day what they're doing, weekly what they're doing. How are you going to do that performance review on a quarterly basis? Like, what are you holding them accountable for? And kind of giving them like their scorecard, right? And I would say in most cases, typically that's going to happen around 15, 20 clients. That's when you want to really do it. Your first couple hires, like you kind of want them to wear many hats, which is not ideal. But when you're at like 10 to 15 clients, it's not going to make sense to hire like 10 people for each specific roles. So you want to get really, like you want to qualify the candidate to as best as you can, right? And find someone that's kind of like a generalist and has great skills with multitasking and can wear multiple hats. Like they can scrape leads, they can help upload stuff into Smartlead, they can kind of do some inbox management, and you kind of want to do it that way. I also think in the beginning, unless you've established a process, you should not create an SOP for it because when you're first growing, your product and your fulfillment and your service is changing every single day. And if you're spending your day doing like really in-depth SOPs and it's changing the next day, it's a bad use of time. So what's better is probably hopping on a call with the candidate or the hire that you make and just like day by day, having calls with them, showing them how to do stuff, correcting their work, reviewing their work. Obviously you want to give them some kind of guidelines and some kind of basics, but like if you hire people that are critical thinkers and are above average when it comes to like the standard, like you won't find issues in that front.
That is an absolutely valid point. I could not agree with you more on that. People end up reading the whole concept of, oh, I need SOPs everywhere, and it's not even a done process, and you're just wasting time, drowning in SOPs. So that's a very fair point. Mishti, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna jump in a quick question. We're in December, it's holiday period. I think we all know cold emails can work, cannot work depending on people and how they go. So how do you deal with the seasonality in adbound and the unpredictability around it with respect to Easter or some other holiday that comes in? Do you run campaigns over summer? Do you run campaigns over Christmas? What's your take on that?
Yeah, so last year we paused it, like I think almost like the whole entire week of Christmas. And I kind of regret that. Like I think for the most part, like if you're kind of targeting like the United States, most people are like still working outside of like really like think about like your typical like SMB or just like kind of like mid-market company. Like I hope their CEO isn't taking off for a whole like 2 weeks, right? Like and so I honestly like we launched a campaign. for Thanksgiving specifically, like we kept our campaigns live Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and we still did pretty good. Obviously, you see a small dip in results, but like it's never going to hurt you from like to keep sending, right? But like on the actual holiday day, I would try to avoid it. Like I think Christmas is on a Monday this year, New Year's is on a Monday. We'll definitely pause our campaigns on those Mondays, but we're still going to be sending on that Friday, if that makes sense.
Cool. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Looking
Sorry,
at
go for it.
looking ahead to 2024, someone asked like biggest challenges you foresee for running the agency, lead gen business, and space in general that you kind of have your eye on.
Yeah, so biggest challenge for next year. So I think the cold email space will definitely get more tough. Like I've never seen so many people join this space, and hey, that's all part of the game. Like the best will or like what's the saying? Like the innovators always will find a way to outlast and whatnot. And so like I'm not too worried about it. I don't think anyone should be worried about it. I think a lot of startups are startups. They're low on funds, so I think like save up your money and you can kind of outlast this storm and you're good. Stay lean, build a lot of automations and operations. You're pretty good in that front. I also think that for all lead gen agencies, you got to kind of start diversifying your services. So like once you've mastered cold email, like you don't want all your revenue just to be tied up with cold email. Like figure out what are some other offers that aren't just cold email dependent that you can rely on. So like roll out LinkedIn, right? Roll out Upwork lead gen, roll out maybe you do like list scraping for companies or whatever it may be, but just like figuring out like how can you diversify like the services you provide so you kind of diversify like your revenue collection.
Nice. Okay. That makes sense. I want to drop in just being conscious of time because we've got 10 minutes, so I'm going to try condense as much value that we can get for people. This has been asked a few times, and you've obviously spoken about this with respect to your previous products as well. What's your take on Spintax creation? Do you do it outside of Smartlead? Do you do it within Smartlead? What's your goal for it, and how do you manage your entire Spintax process?
Yeah, so we actually did. So I think a lot of people mess this up in their campaign creation process. Like if you look at the results of doing Spintax in just like the general spaces versus like because like sometimes people will Spintax like the actual body of the message, and then I don't know if you guys read it, but like some variations sound super funky. Like it's not something you would say in person, so it just kind of really throws it all the way off. Like you can say, hey, like spin the greetings, spin the close, and then like one really cool thing we do, like you'll see this in a lot of like old people corporate type signatures. They have quotes in their signatures, so we spin the quotes that we put in the signatures. It's like a different variation, does the same thing, right? And it kind of makes it look a little bit more human, I guess, rather than like a cold contact. So I think that's a really good use of Spintax. But like, yeah, we're just spinning the greetings, the closings, and then the quotes in the bottom of the messages.
Okay.
And then we're also spinning. Oh, and then like if our CTA is ever requesting a meeting, we have like a couple variations of that. And same thing with like if we're saying, hey, can I send you more information? We have a couple like CTA spinner infos that we call. And that's it. Like a lot of times for the people that are spinning their body, like I'm kind of against it because I think some of the variations just sound super funny and it's kind of harder to accomplish.
Fair enough. Mishy, do you want to drop in anything?
Yeah, we had a couple good ones. One is, so two sides of the coin. One, how do you break down your offer to clients? And then also, how do you decide if the clients are a good fit for you in your process?
So one of the things that we did early on, and I think it comes all down to like client communication and expectation setting, right? So, if you've never taken on a client in the space, you don't know what the results are going to be like. Let the client know that. And if they're comfortable and they want to test with you, great. You get paid to test. You may not make the most amount of money, and that's totally okay. But we did that so early on where we've taken on pretty much clients in every space and with every kind of offer, and we've collected their data and we know what to go for and what not to go for. So we know that like if anyone is wanting like if we get like what are those IT companies called MSPs or whatever. Yeah, MSPs. Like we're gonna avoid those for cold emails because like the email to lead ratio was absolutely horrendous. And so that's kind of how we know it's like it's just trial and error. I think for the most part, like you can probably hit up other agencies that are probably bigger, and then kind of just ask their opinion on like, hey, what kind of clients do you avoid? And then just add it to your kind of like blacklist on the sales side of things. When it comes to explaining our offer, so our offer is a little bit different. We do like what we call is like pay per meeting ready lead. So we don't actually book calls for our clients. We forward like really interested leads that are wanting to schedule a call. And for us, we don't really have to explain the offer as much, because if you go to our website, LeadBird.io, you're going to see like 20 video testimonials of clients we've crushed it for. You're going to see a really in-depth VSL. And I think for a lot of agencies that really want to scale the entire, and I know Fazio, who's next up, he's going to speak about this, but the entire cycle of an agency is like you sign a client, you get them results, you record the results on a case study, and it's just back to the same thing. You go use those case studies to sign more clients, get more results, you get more case studies, and you just keep going back and forth. And that was a huge change for us this year. Get as much case studies we can, decrease our sales cycle, just get more clients.
Simple formula. Yeah.
Someone asked,
sorry, go for it.
And probably one of the last questions we have time for, but how did you decide pricing structure, pay per lead, retainer, experimenting with different things that worked for your agency early on?
Yeah, so it's different for a lot of people. Like I have, like if I would say for most people in here, like you guys don't have enough data, and you may not have like a lot of like the tools like we do. We built a lot of like really cool internal tools, and so our cost is like very minuscule to run campaigns. And so like it's easier for us to charge 200 per lead or 300 per lead and whatnot, and have a super low overhead. So it's kind of hard to explain, but like if most people here, I think you should be charging retainers. You should base it off of like the total amount of emails that you send, and then the total amount of leads that you contact. That's probably how I would do it if I were you guys, because it builds more predictability. But we've built a pretty good, like, what's the word, like business economic, like kind of like unit system, where we're able to calculate like what should be the cost per lead, what we can get in that space, and just things of that sort. So it's much easier for us to kind of do it, just because, and this is the biggest thing, it's like you just got to collect all the data you ever do, and put numbers behind everything. And if you could do that, it makes it so much easier to just like really come up with stuff.
Love it. Love it. Absolutely love it. Thank you so much, Nick. If people want to find you, what's the best spot?
Yeah, go to Twitter, Nick Abraham 12, YouTube, Nick Abraham 12, sub to my channel. Trying to grow that up a little bit. And then yeah, LinkedIn as well, Nick Abraham 12. Shout
out. Love it. All right, everybody, we've got a big everyone, thank you. Let's say thanks to Nick. I've never seen that before. Honestly, you don't get to speak about the operational parts because people get bored about it, but that's what drives the bread and money. So thank you, Nick. Everybody, we've got Daniel Fazio, cold email wizard, the biggest celebrity on the internet for cold emails after Nick, coming in next session in about 8 minutes time. Team, can we drop in the chat the link for Sweet? There we go. We'll give you 5-6 minutes to get a bit of a coffee break, toilet break, and then we'll see there. Mishti, is there anything you wanted to add before people dropped?
No, sounds great. See you at the next one.
Awesome. All right, Nick, thank you so much. We sincerely appreciate your time, and have a great day, everyone. See you in the next one. Cheers.
Thanks, guys. Bye.